Couple of things I want to talk about first, which is today on the stream, not right now, but in a little while, we're going to announce the first winner of the Marcinkiewicz Scholarship to the Jazz Trombone Bootcamp. So the Jazz Trombone Bootcamp, of course, is June 14 through 18, and we're having wonderful guest artists like Andre Hayward, Vincent Gardner, Michael Davis, Steve Davis, legends of the trombone, and it's going to be a super fun week. We've got those master classes. We've got two of our TAs, Jack Courtwright and DJ Rice, both of which were finalists for the J.J. Johnson competition, the ITA, cream of the crop. Today, 21st, Friday, we have, of course, the launch of a new EP. So my new EP, Cast of Characters Live in Denton, live at UNT, is out today, so which is very exciting. Going ahead to share a little bit of that EP and a little bit of things to come. So you get a little bit of a sneak preview of what's to come the following weeks. We got a whole video project that goes with it. So I'm excited to get that out into the world. We're going to launch those videos starting next week, and that's going to be great. What I want to share at the beginning of our session today is actually a little bit of that video. So this track is The Evolution of Perspective, the new version from Cast of Characters. I'm going to put my headphones on. So we're listening a little bit here to the Cast of Characters Live in Denton, featuring Lucas Pino, Quincy Davis, Dave Meter, Eric Hitt, and this is out today. You can check it out on Spotify. We've got some videos to come next week and the week after. I'm excited about that. Cool. Thank you for letting me know. I'm just excited to get it out into the world, so thanks for listening and checking it out. It's up on Spotify, Instagram. It's only a streaming new record, Cast of Characters Live in Denton, out today. If you're just joining, hello, Vic. So that was a live concert. I always planned to document it just to have it, but after everything that happened after the lockdown, and thinking I was going on this big tour, we were going to go ahead and have like all these shows on the East Coast and the West Coast. We got, halfway through the West Coast dates and everything just got upended. And me and Lucas were out on the road. I remember we were in Reno and just like in this hotel and like, we got to get out of here because it was so crazy in March of 2020. Like, didn't know what was happening, didn't know if we'd be able to get back to the East Coast, didn't have any idea. So it was like pretty crazy. And this was like the kickoff. Like Lucas had flown in the day before and we kind of dove in and got this music happening with some of our colleagues from UNT. That's Dave Meter on the piano and Quincy Davis on the drums, and one of our DMA bass students, Eric Hitt, on the bass. And so we got that. So we got a couple live versions. You can hear the band kind of stretch out. And we got some extra videos of some other tunes, and they're going to come out in the next couple of weeks. So there's 3 tunes that are on this live EP that are also on Cast of Characters, the actual record that came out last year. So I'd love to know, there's Evolution of Perspective, which we just heard a clip of. Then there's Patience, and there's also The Sorcerer. A Sorcerer is a Myth. That's the full title. So I'd love to know which version you like better. So let me know in the comments. Brian asked me what's my least favorite instrument. I think my least favorite instrument might be like, how when in 4th grade or whatever, when you start playing music in band class, when you're in grade school, like the percussionists get like a package where they get like a drum pad and a really, really crappy set of bells. So I think my least favorite sound is the sound of like 4th graders playing the bells, like sort of in unison, but not. Maybe that's my least favorite. But that's like a very specific context. S.J. Wimple asks, "Hi Nick, I've been listening to a lot of Curtis Fuller. What are some essentials of his to transcribe other than Blue Train?" I literally came up with a list yesterday, and I will pull out my notebook here that has a list of Curtis solos that I put together. So there's one that I like that's maybe not essential, but it's called The Stroller. There's a YouTube video of that one. Hugor is a great one. One by One is a great solo. It's All Right With Me from the Jazz Tet is a great solo. Bang Bang is another great solo if you want to learn how to play fast. I like his solo on The Court. I like his solo on Ugetsu. I like his solo on Soon from the opener, that record. And Hammerhead from Free For All, the Art Blakey Free For All. A lot of people like to transcribe his solo from Children of the Night. I like his solo on If I Were a Bell. That's from Boss of the Soul Stream Trombone, I think. And then I've been trying to think about which ballads are essential. I got to still go back and figure that out 100%. There's a bunch. And I love his solo on, there's a record with Jimmy Smith, House Party. They play Just Friends, and they play it in D flat, and Curtis, he plays like a really long solo, and it's pretty killing. I'm working on that because if you don't know, I also run like a virtual studio, and in the studio it's like a subscription, and we do a new lesson every week. And right now we're working through a bunch of stuff around drones, but the next kind of deep dive is going to end up being a kind of like a transcription course around Curtis. So if you want to get in on that, that's coming later this summer. If you know a song in one key, do you know a song in all keys? If so, what was your process to learn how? I mean, technically, yes. It depends how hard the song is, really. You know, if you want to really be specific, I suppose. There is some ways of thinking about it in terms of just like function. So what I mean is thinking about the harmony in terms of function and key areas, rather than thinking of it in terms of like, here's like A flat, F7, B flat 7, B flat, E flat, A flat, and just remembering it like a phone number, like a string of letters or something. I like to think about it in key centers and chord symbols. So instead of A flat, F, B flat 7, I say 1, 6 dominant, 2 dominant, 2, 5, 1, 2, 5 to 4, down a fourth, 1, 6, 2 dominant. And then if you think about it like that, like in Roman numerals, then you can transpose it to any key pretty instantaneously if you practice doing that sort of thing. So it's definitely a skill, and it's definitely one that gets easier over time. It's really hard when you start. So don't be sad if it's hard. You know, you got to just go for it. So have you ever transcribed someone in a big band context as opposed to a combo context? Yes. Al Gray. I don't really make a distinction. Oh yeah. Also there's an essential, like, for our fundamentals class at UNT, the first solo that we do to kind of get into transcribing is a JJ solo from a Dizzy Gillespie big band record called, I think it's a compilation that I have, but the tune is called Hey Pete. And it's an F blues. It's really great because it's like super concise in one chorus. Like, what are you going to play? He's got like a 2-bar break, and then he's got one chorus. And like, what are you going to say in one chorus, you know? And it's super clean, super clear, really great. So we're going to hear a Lucas Pino solo on Evolution of Perspective here real quick because it's really great. And I'm really excited about getting some new music into the world because it's been a while and it didn't get to happen last year. So some of my students don't believe me when I tell them, like, this is a blues. Like, I have a pretty loose definition of blues, you know, like it's anything that's 12 or 24 bars and it goes 1, and then it's subdominant, and then it's dominant, and then it goes back to 1. you're gonna have to go over and watch on YouTube later. You're gonna have to go over and listen to that. The new cast of characters on Spotify now. So go and check that out if you want. That was a little clip of Lucas's solo. So it says, when you're learning a songbook ballad, do you prefer initially to learn the vocal recordings or instrumental ones? How does your approach differ between songbook and, say, Strayhorn ballads? I actually kind of do a mixture. I don't necessarily only use one or the other. And I try to find what are the common ground between, how do I know where to phrase or what the melody really is? So try to find an original. Try to find I find the vocal versions usually, if they want to learn the verse or something, they generally might have the verse where instrumental versions maybe don't. But I just try to learn the melody, the way that person plays, and then okay, I'll learn another version and be like, oh, okay, the melody must be some combination of these two, and then I got to find a third or fourth version to try to find what the melody really is. And then even with a Strayhorn thing, if you listen to the original, an orchestrated big band version, that's kind of the version, right, of how it was written down, but then how people interpret it over time can change. So I try to do as much homework as I can, as I go along, to try to make sure that I just want to be informed. I've gotten caught so many times in a situation where somebody asked me a question oh, what's this, or what's the melody here, or and I just don't want to get caught anymore. That's kind of what I decided when I was in grad school. I'm like, whatever, I'm going to put in the extra time on this because I want to be knowledgeable about this song if I'm going to learn this song. And so that's kind of the approach, I guess. You don't have to answer. Did you ever have any emotionally traumatic that changed the way you approached your music? Happy to share. I would have to say that probably traumatic is too strong of a word. There were definitely experiences that drove me along the way. One of them was, there was a master class that I performed at for Wynton Marsalis when I was 13 or 14. And I think he could tell, I was pretty good at trombone, not jazz, but pretty good at trombone for, a ninth grader or whatever. So take all of this with a grain of salt, but whatever that meant to me at that moment, I thought oh, I know what I'm doing, blah, 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 blah. And clearly I didn't. So he had some choice words for me in that masterclass, and it was, I don't know if it was traumatic necessarily, but it was a moment, a turning point for sure, of me to be oh, if I want to do this, I actually need to do this seriously, and I need to actually investigate a little deeper some of this stuff. So that was a turning point. There were some, in terms of changing the way I approach music, I guess the biggest thing there happened between 2015 and 2017. And the impetus there of changing my approach was basically saying that I don't give a shit about what people think anymore, essentially. And that I need to sound good no matter what. And I had to decide that I realized that I looked up to some heroes that Wycliffe Gordon is a hero, right? And he sounds good and the same no matter what. And the same in a good way. I mean, not he plays the same thing. I mean, he always sounds great regardless of the situation, whether it's with an elementary school band or it's with an orchestra or his own band. He always sounds great. And I realized that I just needed to decide that I'm going to sound good all the time. I don't live up to that expectation all the time, but I do hold myself to that standard. And I had to just decide that, hey, I'm just going to sound as good as I can. And I need to figure out what that means for me and how to do it. But that was through observation, number one. And number two was because I was touring my records really hard. And the only way that I could tour my records was to get local bands, right? And so to get local bands meant sacrificing some of the musical integrity of my original project, of the guys I play with all the time, right? So not to say there's not great musicians everywhere, because there are, and there's lots of great musicians, but it's not a cohesive unit in the way that your band is. That's all I mean. And there was a time, especially when I was an undergrad, that I would blame me sounding bad on a bad musical situation. And I did that a lot. Like, oh, that band was sad. Of course I'm going to sound sad because there's nothing to feed off of. There's no energy, blah, 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 blah. And that was just making excuses, like me just making excuses. So yeah, so are there any gigs you turn down because it isn't musically satisfying, although the pay is great? I guess that just depends. If it was paid really great, then I would probably do it. But there's gigs that I turn down because they don't pay enough, even though it might be a good musical situation. And it's evolved over time. I never said no. I never said no until 2018. I literally almost never said no. And I just said yes, 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 yes. And then, in 18, 19, I realized how overburdened I had become by saying yes all the time. And I had to cut back. I had to figure out a way to figure myself out and say no, because I couldn't keep going the way I was going. And then coronavirus, blah, 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 blah. All of that stuff happened and it kind of said no for me for a while. So now as we kind of re-enter the real world, I'm having to kind of contend with that because now offers are coming in and I'm like, do I want to do that? And should I say yes to that because of what you said, the money or the music or the people? I think, it's commonly known, people talk about that kind of triangle or stool, three legs of a stool. It's either you got to have two of the three, right? The money, the music, and the people, right? And so you'll probably do it for you won't do it for one of those things because if you do, you'll be miserable. You just got to have at least two. And then sometimes you get all three. Very rarely, but sometimes. And sometimes it's not about the music at all. There's plenty of times where I've been somewhere and flown back at my own expense to get back in time to play a gig at Smalls with a friend, like Lucas, for example, because I want to play the music. It's not always about the money. So here, Daniel asks about the signal chain for these live streams. So I have a Canon DSLR. I have a ATEM mini switcher. And then I have a Zoom L8 board. And then I use, it's called Ecamm Live is the name of the software. And over a year of trial and error, I have figured out how to get it in sync. And I bought a different lens over the course of the last year. And I realized kind of where, and I set up my desk so that I can't get out of the focus range. And I marked with on the lens where it needs to be so that when I'm standing here, I'm in focus. Because if I step back, now I'm out of focus. But right here, I know now that I'm in focus. So trial and error is the name of the game there. You have a saying about throwing out all books. What books do you use? So I said I throw away all my real books. So I threw away all of my real books so that I learned tunes from recordings. So that doesn't have anything to do with music books, right? Real books, fake books, whatever. There's plenty of resources audio-wise that you can learn tunes from. So that's what I do. Learn from recordings. I mean, I use lots of books. I have a Rochu book that I use all the time. I like the Biche book. I like, of course, Arbins has things that we need out of it. Different Jamie Aebersold books, Omni books. I use lots of books, just not real books for learning tunes. Can you talk about how you planned your tours, how to pitch it to a venue to include them in a tour? So I always take this approach, which is it doesn't put money at the foreground, earning money at the foreground of the purpose of the tour. So for me, especially at the beginning of your career, and I still consider myself in this same boat, I'm further along than I was during the first record, but I view it as an advertising expense, as an audience building expense. Notice I said expense. I budget in what I can afford to spend on that expense, the tour. Of course, I try to make as much money as I can through various means, including gigs, workshops, lessons, everything. What I do is I kind of jump off from home base, right? There's gigs that I can reach from New York within driving distance and I can bring my band, right? So I hit up those ones and kind of a home base of New York. And then I'm from Rochester, New York. So then I go, all right, what's in Rochester? Can we play in Rochester? Can we do some drive outs from Rochester? when I was teaching in Florida, I established a bunch of connections in Florida. So then I go back through my Florida connections. Like, can I go back to Florida State? Can I play at the venues in Tallahassee? What about Jacksonville, Orlando, Miami? Kind of expand that way. And then from there, you can also go like, oh yeah, there's some Atlanta, and then there's Nashville, and there's jazz venues in those places. And so slowly over time, built relationships one at a time, add one new gig to a tour. And then my family is out in Phoenix. And so I was like, all right, there's a great venue there called the Nash. And so I started a relationship with them. It didn't hurt that Lucas was also from Arizona. And that was kind of an in to get to start to play with them. So you need some kind of like little starting point. And you do go from there and kind of grow outwards. And so like right now, while I'm in Texas, I'm trying to build some relationships that allow me to like book a couple gigs in Texas. I mean, I played once in Austin, a great little pop-up series called Monk's Jazz, but I think he's got a permanent venue now, which was really awesome. So basically my strategy has always been to say, I'm coming through this area on these dates. I would love to work something out. Do you have any ideas about when, could those dates work for you? Or I might pitch like ones that are a week apart, saying like, oh, I'm going to be in Rochester on this day. So I'll say a couple days before and after that day, in terms of what might work as in a nearby place. And so I do the same thing with master classes. And so I say just opposite, right? So I say like, I'm in town for a gig, I'd love to do a master class, or I'm in town for a master class, I'd love to do a gig. Because I figure that I'm going to try to make that work in almost every city, that hopefully it works out. And if it doesn't, I mean, what harm was done? The only thing that ends up hurting you a little bit is that you can't necessarily ask for as much travel money, et cetera, et cetera. But like I said, like I've always viewed it as like, I need to get this music out. I need to get people to hear it. I need to give people these records, get people to buy the records, all that stuff. So that's what I do. So one thing at a time, and with each tour kind of like building. And now like a bunch of the places are closed. So I'm kind of like starting over again a little bit. But I mean, it's not very common to be able to string together jazz club dates in the US, and if you can do it, it's, it definitely cuts down on expenses, but it's like, it's a double-edged sword, because the venues don't have the money, but then again, they won't like help you link together dates. So if you're kind of on your own, I feel like, especially in the early and middle part of your career, once you're like being able to demand a high fee, you can it's a little easier. But my whole approach, what I tell every artist on the label, anytime I have a consulting call with artists, they all want press. Everyone wants press. Everyone wants reviews. Everyone wants that validation. They want that external validation. But the thing that you actually need is fans. You need people that care about your music. It doesn't matter if New York Times covers you, because most people are not going to become a fan of your music through the New York Times or through Downbeat or through whatever venue. They're going to become fans of your music by hearing you and hearing your music. So the focus has to be getting the music in front of people at the beginning. All that other stuff is great. It's icing on the cake. It's certainly important. And I want those things for myself too. I want the Downbeat review. I want that coverage also. But it's like, you have to, at the same time, go directly to the audience, build an audience, because I think about Snarky Puppy as the best example. They were playing for years. Then all of a sudden they do something cool. People start to take notice, even though they've been doing 10 years worth of cool stuff. Then all of a sudden, winning Grammys, on the cover of the magazines, blah, 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 blah. But they've been touring for years because they had fans, and they could go and play for those fans in any city. So the same goes for you, Alton, goes for whoever. It's like, you build up fans, know that there's people that will come out to your shows. They'll bring people, find a way to make it work. Because at first, you're not going to be able to expect to like even break even, at least in my opinion. Will we ever see a Marcinkiewicz, Nick Finzer artist model? I don't know. You have to tell Marcinkiewicz that you want it to be the artist model. I think the one that I'm selling, the 6ES, if you want a Marcinkiewicz mouthpiece, that's the one I play. Maybe they'll rename it someday. 6E-S is the one. If you want to check it out, you can get it at nickfinzer.store. Do you have any gigs lined up for New York City this summer? Maybe. There's a couple of pending things. I'm not sure, what's happening in terms of reopening and booking concerts, for me, because like I haven't been back to the city. I've been going back every couple of weeks, and then once March 2020 hit, I've been in Texas teaching, and just kind of waiting for everything to die down. So I'm going to be on the East Coast for a bunch of the summer, but I'm not exactly sure yet what that might look like. In the city, I definitely want to play, but in terms of will something line up, I'm not quite sure yet. But I want to take a few minutes here to diverge from our Q&A for just a moment. I want to announce the winner, the first winner. We have two winners of this Marcinkiewicz scholarship to the Jazz Trombone Bootcamp. It's still open for entries if you want to enter, so you can see that link is on my Instagram bio. You can find it. But we have two winners, and they're going to get full tuition to the Jazz Trombone Bootcamp and a Marcinkiewicz mouthpiece of their choice. And so our first winner that is being announced today, we'll announce another one next Friday at next week's live stream. We'll announce the second winner. I'll also be emailing this person. And so there's been a lot. It's not that long of a process. Just go put your name, why you think you should get the scholarship, why you need the scholarship, why you want the scholarship, be enrolled as a student somewhere, or be kind of close to being a student. As long as you're not way out of school, we'll consider that as a great application. So our first winner is Sia Charles. She is from Cape Town, South Africa, and so she is the winner of the first ever Jazz Trombone Bootcamp Scholarship, and that's sponsored by Marcinkiewicz, and so they will be handling that. They will be handling getting her a mouthpiece. We'll work on that together, Sia, and then also full tuition to the bootcamp. So I'm excited to be able to have someone from South Africa joining us now for the bootcamp, and making it even more diverse of an event in terms of location and experience, and being able to share, because I think it's really important just to be able to have that different non-US centric focus. We have some other international people as well from UK and Europe that have signed up, so that's going to be a lot of fun. And it's again June 14 through 18, 11 a.m. Eastern time, New York City time, 11 a.m. to about 4 p.m. each day, and includes those master classes, includes sessions with me and our TAs, some listening sessions, special topics, diving into language and all different stuff. So if you want to learn more, you can go and learn more. But Sia Charles, can't wait to see you at the bootcamp. So thanks for entering. And next Friday, we will have number 2. So next Friday, we'll have the second winner, and we will announce that live on the stream, and then I'll get in touch with them. You said last week something about 3 takes max from recording. Do you have the same philosophy for recording big bands? If you're recording live together, I would never do more than 3 full takes, regardless of the ensemble size. But that's also because I value energy and vibe over perfection. If you are a person that likes perfect recordings and that kind of like nitty gritty, like needs to be perfect vibe, then you might need to do more. I want the vibe to be right, and that's the most important thing. Whether it's a big band, a quintet, a trio, whatever it is. And so what I would do is like probably 2 recordings and then maybe a punch. Like, oh, we need the intro again, or oh, we need the ending again, or oh, we need the solo section again, and be able to edit those things together rather than like another full take, So I don't have a hard and fast rule, but I can say that more than 3 takes in a row, in particular, like sometimes you need to take a break and come back. So you could do 2 or 3, and then come back at the end of the day or something if you have extra time and like do another one. That happens sometimes, but like doing 2 or 3 in a row, like you end up with diminishing returns in my experience. Like people are sick of playing the song, they want to move on, they know there's so many other songs to keep recording, so it's not good for morale, and it's not good for the flow of the session to get bogged down, in my opinion. But that's not to say that you can't make a plan for hard passages. So if there's something that's like particularly difficult for the horns, say, and this is a big band session, if you plan it out and say, okay, horns lay out for this part, and then we're going to overdub it because it's hard and we don't want to screw it up. That is just a smart thing to do. So sometimes I'll say like, or lead trumpet, lead leave your part out because it's really high and we don't want to have to go back and do like 75,000 takes for you to get your one note, right? So we just let everybody take a break and have that one person overdub. So if there's no mistake, it's easy to overdub. But if there's a mistake, then everyone has to play if they're not all isolated. Is the date to apply for the scholarship past due? No, it's not past due. I'll accept entries all the way up until next Friday when we announce the second winner. So as long as you're sending it, those applications in, I will see them. And I will consider all of the applications other than Sia because she already got number one. It can be US based, international, any level. It should be someone that we're not going to cover trombone basics at this camp. So if it's somebody who's maybe just picking up the trombone for the first time, it might not be such a great fit. If you're a trombonist that wants to learn more about jazz, it's going to be perfect for you. A lot of the students are high school and college students or recent master's graduates, things of that nature, and also adult learners too. We've had many people that had careers and then picked the trombone back up, and it's their passion and they want to learn more. So we're excited about having them as well, and it's been super awesome. Last year we had some really great people in that camp. We put together a packet, like a PDF packet that goes out to everyone that's got exercises from the week and pretty much everything that we're going to cover, we put into a packet so that you have something to take with you, some stuff to practice. We record all the sessions so that you can go back and like watch it again, hear it again, especially the master classes with our great guest artists. If you missed it, we've got Vincent Gardner, we've got Steve Davis, we have Michael Davis, and we have Andre Hayward. Some really, really, really great artists and educators. So I'm going to close out today's session by going back and watching maybe just the ending here of not the whole thing, but a couple more minutes of the Cast of Characters live in Denton EP that's out today. Again, it's a streaming only record. You can stream it everywhere. It's only for streaming, and a bunch of videos coming soon. And of course, we have this from Lucas Pino. We're in the middle of his solo, so we're going to pick it up from here and hear a little bit of this as we get any last minute questions. But I'm super glad you all could be here today, so thank you for coming, and let's hear some music. See, not everything's perfect all the time. It's the beauty of a live recording, right? All right, I'll wrap it up there for today. I'll you can go and check that out if you'd like to. I appreciate everyone who's been here asking questions over the last many weeks. love you all, and thanks for being here. And we're going to wrap it up for this week. Check out the new record, Cast of Characters, live in Denton. We're going to have some great videos coming out in the coming weeks. One more week to apply for the Jazz Trombone Bootcamp Scholarship, and we'll have winner number two announced next week on the live stream. And again, Sia Charles from Cape Town, South Africa, is the winner of Marcinkiewicz Scholarship number 1 to the bootcamp. So thanks. Have an amazing weekend, and we'll catch you next week.